Hi, I'm Andy and welcome to my channel. I'm pretty much a self-taught mechanic. Spend most of my time looking after my 911 997 Carrera C4S and my T669 Fiat Ducato motorhome. I also do various servicing and maintenance work on a lot of other makes of cars. It's fair to say I do have some unorthodox methods, but I always get there in the end, and with some pretty impressive results, it's fair to say. Enjoy the channel. Morning and welcome to this one on the Fiat Ducato. Quite possibly going to be my last video before I go away to Europe, but that's another story. Quite excited to do this one. It involves fitting DRLs in the fog light sockets on X250. It's a facelift model. I searched high and low for these on, I think I bought them on eBay in the end, but I'll put that up very shortly. In LED format, there's plenty of them about in the standard H11 bulbs, but I wanted LED to keep up with the appearance, as the rest of it is all LED on the front of the vehicle. So I bought a pair of these. They weren't expensive. I've tested them to see if they work. They were about £25. I can't remember now. I can't believe they were 30 quid. The fittings on the sides, you've got 1, 2, 3 and 4. They're the standard fog light fittings that you find on the front of all these vehicles. I have already purchased a big box of waterproof terminals, which is what they use on wiring looms. Well, it's important that you get the right crimper because you need to get the joins correct. Otherwise, you won't be able to slide the pins inside the caps. Now, I will say that one side is going to be a little bit easier than the other. This is the passenger front side, underneath, just behind the inner wheel arch, and it is just completely accessible. You will have a cover within your fog light stroke DRL socket, which with a screwdriver and prising it between here and there will release it. There is wiring on the chassis, but it's not suitable for this application, as I'm going to explain. So this is the plug that was in that loom that was sitting on the chassis. It did have a green wire in it, creating that loop back, but I cut the green wire to wire it up to the DRL to test it. And of course, that's when I discovered that, yes, that DRL in the bumper will work, but it isolates the one in the headlight. So I've now just replaced that with a new connection and plugs, and I'm going to put this back in its original location. So I wasn't able to do it one-handed, but that's the original plug back in its original position. The two red grommets you can see are for fog light. The looped wire is on the DRL circuit. If I break those wires and wire the lower DRL in the bumper to it, then I isolate the top one. So this, you can see here, the two bulbs which are coming out of the back of the headlight. This relates back to the other video about curing the triangle issue when you upgrade your incandescent DRL bulbs in your headlights to LED. You need to watch that before you go any further, really. So those two bulbs indicate the high full power circuit and the half power circuit. When you turn your ignition on, one of the bulbs lights along with your DRL. When I put the headlights on, it swaps over, because that's the high and the low power circuit. There are two circuits operating on that DRL. So I'm going to use the headlights off circuit, which is the one that's illuminated now, which will mean that when I turn my headlights on, the lower DRLs will actually go out. So with the original wiring loom on the vehicle back as it was, I now need to make a fly lead up to run to the LED to my circuit on the back of my headlight to connect it with the existing DRL. So I've got myself the right acquired length using my fancy sockets. They're quite nice. I need one of these, which is a 2-pin external. It goes in there and clips in. So we need one of those on one end. These are the waterproof seals, so I've slid those on. Have I slid them, or have I? Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've slided them on. Then we want, or two of the square terminals out of the box. There are two types in there, and our crimpers. Now I have found these take a bit of skill and a bit of experience, really, of which I had none. I have found that it is quite beneficial to squeeze these outer tabs in a little bit, so they're pointing inwards, and the same with the inner two, which is not as easy as it sounds. Taking my crimpers, now these crimpers, I should imagine yours would be the same. On the inside, they are sided, so there's a side that's slightly deeper than the other side. Your outer crimp needs to fit. You can see that's just holding in there. So we're going to put our cable through the earl, and it points just to the back of the pin, and then, hey presto, you get, can't help but thinking you're not really getting a good view of that. You get a good solid crimp. Again, this one is not quite folded over, so I'm going to do it by hand. And there you go. Same with the other one, and that gives you your two terminals. If you look down the holes here, you can see two tabs on one side. Those two tabs locate on the side. Those two tabs locate on the side here where the wire is. So you want to slide these in. Tabs are on the clip side, so you want to slide these in, slide those down there like that first, and slide these in like that. Finally, it's gone in. Like I say, they're a bit of they're great. See, now they won't pull out because they lock in. So then that gives you your two connections in there like that. And that's your plug pretty much done. So once they're in, if you need to widen these pins a little bit, because these are obviously Chinese, and those pins are facing the wrong direction. They should be long ways. They should be horizontal, not vertical. So all we do, I'm just going to put a screwdriver in here just to flare the ends, and then that will allow you to get your pin in. There you go. Voila. That connection's all good. Now we can fit the light into the van. I've also put a little bit of trunking around the cable as well, just to protect it where it's exposed down by the arch. So I'm just going to run my cable down. It's there. I'm just going to try and stop it from dropping all the way through right now. I've connected my junction box up. The lower wire is going down to the DRL, and this one is replacing that bulb socket that I had here. Again, these were here to fool the camber system because the voltage was too low a draw when I converted to LED. Just got to tidy the wiring up underneath, and that's this side done. Unfortunately, I had to replace the bulb because the draw still wasn't enough to keep the triangle off. Right, now let's try and fit the DRL. I have made a little gasket out of thin insulation. I'll show you a bit more on that subject shortly, and the reason behind it. I'm going to put my gasket in there. This points downwards to the ground, and this hole here is going to locate in a pin that's already on the van. If I'm in the way, I apologise. And then I'm going to slide my bit of gasket around like that. Take a screw. Now, as I said, they came with screws, only two, admittedly, but they fit perfectly, as far as I'm concerned. And that's just one screw in. So I'm going to put the second one in the top left-hand corner. Now I'm going to have to find another screw to go in that bottom bit. That goes in there. I'm just putting my hand around the outside to make sure that the gasket that I made stays central. I will insert my cable, goes in there, like that. So I need to tidy it up a little bit with some cable ties. Let's go up top and have a look from outside. So the reason for my gasket is that they don't sit actually flush on the bumper, even though they're tight on their fixings. So there was a gap around here, which A, will allow water in around the electrics, etc. But also this creates a nice seal around the inside and a snugger fit. So there's no movement in there whatsoever. Yeah, it just finishes it off a bit for me rather than looking down and seeing a gap through to the ground. So we're just hitting a bit of a rain shower. Rain has stopped play. So what I'll do, I'll show you how I made the gasket. Do love a little bit of rain. The gasket that I made was literally out of a bit of insulation. It's about 1 centimetre thick. It's really soft. It's waterproof anyway. Found myself a template in terms of a tin, which I'm going to put there. And then with a blade, just going to run the blade around the outer edge of the tin, keeping the blade as upright as possible, a bit like that. And then you should just be able to pop that out of there. Then for the inner, a trusty mug, and same again, keeping the blade as upright as I possibly can. Oops. And then we should be able to pop that out of there, trim it with a pair of scissors. There is plenty of room under there for the outer edge, so you haven't got to worry too much. I shall just blow it over with a little bit of satin black, and then that gives me my gasket. As for tidying up the passenger side, cables all here. I managed to get a cable tie around the back there just to support it, and then I've followed it up and supported it with a cable tie there and the one there, and then we've got one up above, so it's quite well protected and it's not gonna flap about. So the sun's come back out and the rain has stopped, so let's crack on with side 2. This one's gonna be a little bit more tricky because we're probably gonna have to remove a little bit of inner trim, which the passenger side front doesn't have. Let's crack on with that while the gasket's drying. To access the driver's side front, we're going to need to remove this panel. There's a fixing over there, there's one up there, there's one there, and a couple under the front. And we'll just slide that out of the way. So to my total shock horror, the driver's side front is actually a dummy. It's just a moulding. Why on earth would it be different to the other side? There's nothing to fix a fog light to. So not only am I going to have to cut it out, I'm also going to have to make something up as a mounting for it to sit on. So that's a bit of a bummer. So that was very much unexpected and has presented me with a bit of a conundrum. I've looked online everywhere and I cannot find a mount of any kind that will fit inside there. And there aren't any mountings on the inside of the bumper to fix something to. So it's all a little bit of a bit odd, to be quite honest. All I can think of really is that maybe in the past that end cap has been replaced. It might have got damaged or something like that, and it's been replaced with a bog standard one that just has a dummy looking fog lamp socket in it. Or it could be the other side. Maybe it was manufactured with dummy fog lights and the other side's been replaced and they've put one in that had the fog light surround mount on it. Who knows? I'm not going to worry about it. I am going to have a go at it because time is running out. I've only got a week or so before I go away and I don't really need to be spending loads of time just trying to sort this out. I'm going to go with building up my own collar using some using some plywood and epoxy resin and probably some Sikaflex to finish it off. Bear with me, don't cringe. It might not work. It might fall off as soon as I try and put it in there. But fortunately, the fitting's very light. It hasn't got a lot of weight to support. I've just got to make it as strong as I possibly can, and hopefully we might get away with it. The first thing we're going to need to do is to cut out that dummy blank. Well, we only get one go at this. And I'm not liking that angle straight away. Well, that's quite clean. Cleaner than I thought. So that's how that would be. So my first job is really going to be to paint that inner edge out so it matches the rest of the bumper. So I'm going to mask up around the hole. I'm using just a rubbing alcohol to clean it up. That evaporates really quickly. Prepare some etch primer, Fiat colour match paint. So I've paused between little dust coats. And now we just leave that to dry. But not before I remove some of the masking tape, if not all of it. When it's dry, I'll give it a polish up. But yeah, it actually looks better than the other side. The cutter size that I used for getting the dummy out was on there. I can just about make out, it looks like 2 inches and 7/8, 74 millimeters in diameter, but I've cut it out pretty square. Quite impressed with that, to be honest. It's a shame that I don't have a larger cutter, otherwise I could have got a better angle while cutting out these bits of wood. I'm just making collars basically at different shapes and sizes to build up that outer edge around the rear of the lower bumper in order to be able to hopefully mount the LED DRL to it. So I'll cut these up now into various sizes and get them attached and see what happens. So the plan is, I've started to key up this plastic around the inside here because I'm going to use an epoxy resin to bond these pieces of ply around the outside in line with where the screw holes would be on the light fitting. So the light fitting will sit in there, and then I will have pieces of epoxied wood around the outside which I will be able to screw into. Well, that's the plan anyway. So this is what I'm going to use to bond the wood to the plastic on the inside. So I'm just cleaning the pieces of wood that I've cut out. They're various shapes, trying to incorporate the curve a little bit here and there, but just making sure that they're nice and clean, ready to receive that epoxy resin, as it's important that we do get the best bond going. Just cleaning the faces of the wood just to make sure, again, just to help adhesion. So I hope that's clear enough for you. I've scored it all up all the way around and keyed it up further with a Stanley blade. So hopefully that'll give me maximum adhesion. But you're now looking at the first stage. I have put a block in here, a block in here, one there and one there, and I shall endeavour to build it up as time goes on. This stuff is contact almost. Within 10 minutes it's pretty well solid, so needs about 12 hours I think to fully cure, but I'm not going to give it that long. So this is almost the final stage where I built it up a little bit further, and I've applied a lot of resin around the back here to build it up both sides. This is about the 4th attempt at topping it up with resin. The final stage for me is I'm going to build it up with some Sikaflex around the back and around all the joints, which will in time give it a proper solid surround and also technically more surface area in terms of bonding together. When applying those little blocks of wood, I did them one at a time and also offered the light fitting up at the same time to make sure that they weren't fouling any of the plastic on the fitting and that it would line up properly. So do it slowly, 1 or 2 at a time, make sure they're in the right place before you add the next one, build it up that way. So on to putting a plug on our little bit of loom that we're making up. So the light fitting's all good. Unfortunately, the pin was broken in the back of this one, so I've had to put another plug on it and do it that way round. So that's my finished effort. I've run Sikaflex all the way around it, round the back. It's all quite dry now. It's about 5 hours since I put this on. And I've got my cable ready to go into the light. So let me have a go at putting it in. Wish me luck. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, the finished article. I'm laughing at myself because it's kind of a bit of a bodge, but it's a pretty good one. It's in there and it's like absolutely solid. Took a bit of lining up, but we got there in the end. I'm going to pop the plug in. So cable's all secure. All I've got to do now is put this panel back on, and then I'll give you the final result. I'm still laughing, I'm sorry. Well pleased with that. And now for the final light show. What can I say? I'm still grinning. That's it. I love the look. It's all working. It's really solid in there. And if it did fall out, it's going to land in that tray that's now underneath it. There's a van tour coming up inside and out in the near future. But thanks for watching. I look forward to your comments on that one. Thanks for your support and thanks for watching. Bye for now. I thought I'd order a couple of spares. I found these and they're only $12.95. Happy days.